Welcome everyone. In today's video, we're going to go over mantra and how mantra meditations can help to change your life by giving you a focus and a way to calm your mind and embody the juice and the elements of the mantra. Let's get started. So what is mantra? Quite simply, mantra is a word, phrase, or a syllable that is repeated as the object of focus. So think about a meditation. And we sit for meditation 5, 10, 15 minutes, and the focus is typically on the breath, either at the nose or at the diaphragm. And as our mind gets attached to thoughts, we gently bring the mind back to nose or diaphragm, right? Well, mantra is similar in that instead of the breath being the focus, the phrase or the word that you are repeating is now your focus. And the neat part with mantra is many of them are spiritual in nature, and they are derived from, some of them are in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit words have power. Sanskrit words have magic associated with them. Now, again, there's no scientific evidence for this, but I'm just telling you what is commonly understood and believed in the spiritual community. Again, if you're one of my science-minded viewers, don't worry about this part, but mantra will still be useful to you as a tool for cultivating your mind. But Sanskrit words have magic and power to them. Contrast that to English. English doesn't have the same juice that Sanskrit does, and most languages don't. Sanskrit was actually made with intention and kind of magic and energy behind it. So a lot of the Sanskrit mantras that you can repeat will actually have a lot of energy, and there's purpose in the syllables that were selected, basically, the way that the utterance. Because if you remember in the Bible, and I'm not a Bible scholar, so don't quote me on this, but there was the word. And with the word came everything. The words have power, words have magic with them. Again, Sanskrit words have power, and you can use English phrases too, and you can also get effects from them, but it just won't be the same. Mantra was thought to have started out of the Vedic period in India, and that's in the BCE times, because the Hinduism and then the Vedic traditions have been around for a really long time in India. It's actually a really old religion. And they were the ones that first started practicing this, at least according to the history of the sources I sought today. Now, each mantra has a different vibration or effect, and that's why you choose a particular mantra in some purposes. Ultimately, it's tied to the intention, because whenever you chant a mantra, and specifically some of the spiritual mantras, whether they're from Hinduism or whether they're from Buddhism, you're tapping into that energy frequency of all of the thousands of monks and people that have meditated and have used this mantra in generations before you. And there's almost a frequency and band of energy that one can tap into if one goes very deep with the mantra. Now, you don't have to go that deep with the mantra. That's more for a spiritual, esoteric purpose. Even using mantra just for its basic purpose, which is to help to calm the mind and embody some of the effects and intentions of the mantra that you're using, are still good. And even if you only use the mantra just as a meditative aid to calm your mind, it still has lots of scientifically proven benefits, much along the same lines of meditation, by repeating a mantra. Now, in this video, I'm just going to go over a few mantras with you. There are, in the Buddhist tradition, in the Hindu tradition, and even in the Christian, Judaism traditions, Islam, mantra is common among all spiritual beliefs and traditions. And a lot of times, if you don't see them, you have to look for the mystical sect. The mystics are the ones that the main religions kind of put off in the corner somewhere, and they're like, go do that weird shit over there. But every tradition has mysticism built into it. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they all have their own mystics. And they all have similar beliefs and understandings of how the universe works when they look at it through the mystical lens. But for today's video, we're just going to go over some of the more popular ones you may have been aware of or heard of, and then we'll also go into how you can use just regular English phrases. Back to our video on affirmations, you can use an affirmation as the object of your mantra. So for example, for English, we can use a word like love. We can sit and meditate and, on the word love, and repeat that phrase, and repeat it, and embody it, and just until our whole being is vibrating with the meaning and the intention of the word love, or of the word peace, or of I am love, or I am enough. These short phrases. So first we'll start with Om, or Aum, and that's when you pronounce, when you say it, you can either say it as Om, or some say it pronounced as Aum with like an A-U-M. And it's thought that the A originates near the solar plexus, This is the Aum. As you're saying it, it's activating and engaging chakras from the solar plexus up through the crown. When it comes to Aum or Aum, it's considered to be the first sound in the universe, the sound of the universe, the sound of creation. And by embodying this vibration, you are aligning yourself with the universe. Now, if you look this up, Om being one of the core mantras, there's tons and tons of research and literature and scholarly articles about people debating the meaning of it and where it came from and all of that. I'm not getting into the depths of that. I'm just making this a summary of these things and giving you the tools to work with them. So from where I stand, you're aligning yourself with the universe. You are embodying that universal energy because, again, remember, law of divine oneness, we are all one. We are all one being. We are one with this universe. And by doing Aum or Aum, we are aligning ourselves with the vibration of the universe. And then when I'm finished here, we'll actually go through, I'll give you an example of me. I'll do some of these mantras for a brief period of time so you can just get an idea of the flavor. There's no wrong way to do mantra. You just keep doing it and it'll tune you to it. You know, just go with the intention of, you know, dear spirit, infinite intelligence, God, creator, tune me into this mantra. My intention is pure in that I wish to embody and perform this mantra as it wishes me to, that I am such that I am in vibrational alignment and harmony with it. And you don't have to make it as complicated as I just did. But Spirit, help me align with this mantra. Help me to say it the right way. Help me to get the most benefit for myself out of it. Now, another one you may have heard before is the Om Mane Padme Hum. And this Om is the same as this Om. They've just added some more. And there are, again, hundreds of scholarly articles debating the meaning of this. I'm just going to give you one of the common meanings is the jewel in the lotus blossom. So remember, the lotus blossom, the lotus flower grows and blossoms in the dirt and in the mud. But out of the dirt and the mud comes the lotus blossom, and the jewel is in the center of the lotus blossom. Now, this is thought to be like a metaphor or an analogy that we are the lotus blossom. That as we grow and we blossom in the muck and the mud, despite being surrounded by the mud, our Buddha nature, how we can transform ourselves into the Buddha, is always right there and available for us. It helps to transform our impure body, speech, mind, and spirit into the purity of that of the Buddha energy, of the enlightened being. That's what the Dalai Lama says about Om Mane Padme Hum, is that it helps you to transform yourself into the Buddha by repeating this mantra. Now, another one, if you're familiar with the SGI Buddhists, they prefer the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And that is devotion to the mystic law of the Lotus Sutra. And that was back in the 13th century when the Lotus Sutra was created or penned. And at the time, it wasn't a common idea in Buddhism that a person could always be one thought away from embodying the Buddha. At that time, it was thought that you had to go through rigorous works, you had to go through rigorous austerities to become like the Buddha, which is ironic because the Buddha enlightened himself after he did away with all of that and he became enlightened. But back in the 13th century, they still were like, no, to become like the Buddha, the enlightened one, you must go through all this work. And that might be true, but they didn't have a framework for, oh, you could just access this at any time. So the person that wrote the Lotus Sutra basically states that the Buddha nature is within all of us. We can all transform ourselves simply by bringing it forward. We don't have to do anything. The Buddha nature is always here. The Buddha nature is always present within us. And it is only up to us to basically polish the mirror, as they would say in Zen, and then they would say there is no mirror and no polishing, but Zen is just a whole bunch of in and out nonsense. I do like Zen, but yeah, Zen is, anyway, polishing the mirror so that we can see the Buddha nature clearly within us. This also references the lotus blossom. Again, the lotus blossom is in the mud, but within the mud and all of that dirt, the Buddha nature is right there. It's always right there. It's always one thought away. You're always one thought away from it, And that's where the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo becomes. And that becomes they are a very serious and devoted people to this mantra, specifically. They have made that the focal point of their spiritual practice is this mantra, and they believe that this is the way to happiness and this is the way to transforming your life, especially when it is said with that intention. So now we'll go through each of these. I'll do a little bit of each mantra for you. So Om. Now Om is neat because you can do Om in one of two ways. You can do Om where you repeat the word over and over again. So we can sit. Same with meditation. We sit, we lie down, whatever's comfortable for us. Close our eyes, open them. When you're doing mantra, you can have your eyes open or closed. Doesn't matter. We want to breathe, and just like meditation, you don't need to do mantra for more than 15 minutes. You can get a good effect out of that. And if you're start with 5 or 10, make sure that you're away and by yourself, because if you're so busy feeling embarrassed, because I know I was, when I first started chanting mantras, I would be embarrassed. And if somebody came home, I had to stop and I do it quietly, like, and someone comes home and I'm like, oh, I was just upstairs, I feel the shame and this weirdness of, being myself and doing this thing that seems out of the ordinary. So in the beginning, it can be helpful to kind of sequester yourself to do it where you won't be bothered, where you don't have to worry about anyone being like, you're a weirdo. And then some thick-headed people being like, what is that? That's so weird. And people making fun of you. And then now you're so self-conscious, you got the stigma, and you're so far away from what you're supposed to be doing because you're in your head thinking about it. So the point of all that is find a place to do it. You could do it in your car, pull into an empty parking lot, somewhere where you can look around, tint your windows, make sure nobody sees you, before you start doing it. So with Om, you can do it one of two ways. So we can go, and you can pronounce it as Om or Aum. Some people do either one. I go back and forth when I do it. So we can do Om, 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 Om. And you can go fast or slow. Om, 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 Om. So what you're doing is you're just repeating over and over, and you're making that your focal point so that as any thoughts begin to arise in your mind, they are just quickly swallowed up in the wave of Aum, Aum, Aum. And again, the pacing you do it at, find what's comfortable for you. Now, the other way you can do Om is as a long breath. So, Om. And again, you can go as long or as slow as you want. When you need to breathe, stop and breathe, There are times where you'll get to do in the mantra where you'll be able to do it while you're breathing in. So you'll be Om, 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 Om. You can kind of do it with the in-breath. You could also just shift it into your mind while you're breathing in and then shift it back to the lips. It's thought that when one does mantra, the mantra begins at the lips and the tongue, and then it slowly makes its way up into the mind where it repeats and it cycles. And then eventually the mantra moves down and resides in your heart. And when it resides in your heart is then when the mantra begins to reside in your whole being. And if you do mantra, like some people will do mantra in their minds all day while they're going about their business, just in the background, just thinking it, right? And sometimes I've done that sometimes where it gets to be such an autopilot thing that it's just in the background churning, and you'll forget you're doing it, and the next thing you know, you'll hear that little program in the background going, Om, 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 in your mind, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. But yeah, you can do that long chant, the and you want to spend time in each of the syllable ranges. So for the Aum, we're going to spend time in the A, which is the solar plexus slowly moving up. We're going to spend time in the which is where you're coming up into the heart chakra and the throat chakra. And then we want to end on the which is moving into the third eye and the crown. So that's the Aum. Now the Om Mani Padme Hum again. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. See, and you can just keep doing it, and you're going to find yourself saying the words with different emphasis and stretching certain words and contracting each, and it's going to move as you do it. You can go on YouTube, and for Om Mani Padme Hum especially, there's lots of videos on YouTube of how to mantra that and how to do that. And I might even make a video where maybe together we can just kind of as a community activity, I'll sit and do one of these for like 15 minutes and we can all do it together. We can all tune in, you know, and even if you watch it in the future, you can tap into the energy of that moment. And like we'll do like a live video maybe where we can do it together. Then you have this one, which is the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And you can just repeat and repeat. And the goal is, again, just focusing on that mantra itself and keeping that within yourself. And then we'll pick one of these English ones, like let's just do peace, you know, or even I am love. We'll do I am love. 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 Now, for me, the English ones don't do it. I find them distracting. But you can also see from how I do it, these ones seem to carry more of a power with the syllables, you know, where this is not so much. If it was me doing these, I'd probably do these in my head. I wouldn't even bother saying them, to be honest. I just don't resonate with them. But for you, man, that could be right where it's at. I am love, I am enough, or peace, 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 peace. Like that might be for you, that might be your jam. You're going to be called to a different mantra, if you're called to mantra at all. Some people aren't called to mantra, it's not the right time. But if it is the right time for a mantra, work with it. I mean, you can say them during the day in your head. You don't have to speak them aloud. If, you know, if you're shy or if you're afraid or if it's like the stigma of it, just do it in your head and keep repeating it. And then work with it. You know, find one of these. One of these may resonate with you more than the others, and work with that one. And you might work with it for a day. You might use it for 2 months. And then at a certain point, a mantra might feel dead. And it might feel like, you know, I'm done working with this mantra. And that's when you have to make the decision. Do I double down? Is it a time to reinvigorate the energy of this mantra? Or is this mantra just dead for me at this moment and it's time to pick a different one or drop mantra altogether? Remember, the spiritual journey is all about experimentation. It's all about the joy and the adventure and the passion of just running around and trying these things. So I hope you guys found this video about mantra useful. If you'd like me to do a live mantra session where we can all kind of join together, we'll schedule it like a week ahead and we can sit and do mantra together. I'm all about doing that. I think I'm going to do the same with meditation. I thought about maybe once a week doing a meditation video where it's live, we all do it together, and we have a common intention we're focusing on before each one, whether it's for the world, whether it's for ourselves, you know, etc. But anyway, I'll catch you guys next time. I hope you make it a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.